This is Hidden Killers Week in Review.
A look back at the most prolific stories of the week.
This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
When a public figure is murdered, the story doesn't end when a shot is fired. It fractures. And that space between confusion and confirmation, something else tends to take root. Within hours of Charlie Kirk's assassination, social media filled with silence and noise. Claims of a false flag, fake texts, deep state plots, AI-generated notes, even talk of multiple shooters. Everyone searching for a version of the truth that fit their worldview. But why do we do that? Why do conspiracy theories spread faster than facts? Especially when the evidence, the filings, and the forensics are sitting right there in front of us? We're going to dive into that. Former FBI Special Agent and Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, Robin Dreeke, joining us to dissect how conspiracies are born, why they resonate, and what makes them nearly impossible to kill. We're going to take a look at the psychology behind belief, why people cling to explanations that defy logic, and why asking questions, even uncomfortable ones, still matters. Because understanding conspiracy thinking isn't about silencing curiosity, it's about protecting it from manipulation, distortion, and the noise that drowns out truth. So, Robin, let's start here. When the public doesn't have answers, why do our brains rush to invent them? What psychological need is being met when people create order out of their own chaos, I guess?
You just said it right there. We as a species have an amazing ability to try to find patterns where patterns may or may not exist, because when we understand patterns and we see patterns, what's it do? It allows us to feel safe. And so that's one of the reasons why we do these things and have our own confirmation biases. And if we're trying to have a confirmation of there must be a pattern here, I will find the pattern, that's part of it. But there's lots of elements that go behind conspiracy theories, why they take root, how they take root, why some people believe them, don't fall into them. There's a lot to unpack on that one. And really thinking about the Charlie Kirk ones that have recently emerged, I think there's also a recent trend also that feeds into this more than maybe during the Martin Luther King assassination or any of them from decades ago, and that is people want to feel special. That is really another driver behind conspiracy theories, is they want to come up with these really original things that no one's thought of before, so the world will look at them. And then when you throw social media on there, a large reason why people will put out a conspiracy theory, one, they're filling the void of information with their thoughts and opinions. And if they make them so sensational, but a little bit of plausibility, where's the spotlight go? On them. Mm-hmm. And then echo chambers start and they try to build upon it. And if you don't have credible information countering it, it'll take root. And even, like you said, even in this case, there's tons and tons of credible information that was presented and gathered immediately. Because when we're looking at credibility of information, we also want to look at the tempo in which it's garnered, the way in which it's shared, because we're looking for congruency in lots of different areas. And in this case in particular, I was pretty shocked. So many conspiracy theories, as I researched before we came on today, I was like, there's conspiracy theories around Charlie Kirk? How could there be? And like, oh my God, there's a lot. and it's befuddling.
There are a lot of very loud voices that are peddling them. And look, I'm not here to say it's like everyone should be asking questions. There's a lot of weird things in this story. I want to get that off the bat right away. But there's also reality and there's not. And that's where I wanted to have a conversation about this kind of as a 10,000-foot overview. And I think we'll start there. Yep. And then I want to go a little bit closer to identifying some of these claims that are being made by some very well-known people who were very close to Charlie Kirk, including Candace Owens, and things that are being said. And I'm not here in this piece. I just want everybody to know, this is not a political piece. This is not to say this is right, this is wrong, this person's telling the truth, this person is not. It's more so just what's going on, an observation of the actions that we're seeing around us and these viewpoints that are being expressed. What's happening? That's what we're trying to get to here. So before anybody's like, well, it's going to go this way, it's not. This is not pro, anti, any opinions of Charlie Kirk. It's just what's happening in our environment.
If I could, Tony, to really introduce a thought here. So here's my notes I take on everything before we do it. Right?
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I use this word all the time. And I know I've used it with you, and I use it everywhere in my life. And I want people to engage this word as you've laid this out for us. Let's engage the world of maybe. Because if you use the word maybe, it keeps your mind open, and it keeps the people around you open that you're open. And that dialogue going. And when you keep the dialogue going, you're flowing. And when you have curiosity flowing, you actually can get to truth and you can get to a deeper understanding. So I love the world of maybe, because every conspiracy theory, like when I was going through this and all the things at the 30,000 foot level and all right down to the granular level, I was like, maybe. And so when we're maybe, it means I'm going to take in more. I'm going to take in more. I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep educating. So yes, I'm with you. Let's go maybe.
Why? Let's just start here. Why do we find comfort in believing a hidden hand in so many things? I mean, that's an interesting thing. Why does control, even dark control, feel better than uncertainty? Because with some of these conspiracy theories, I mean, again, you have to look at this and go, that would be even darker than what this may appear to be if it goes this far. But and that's the interesting thing with conspiracy theories. It sometimes makes us feel like we're more in control. But in order to feel more in control, we have to believe more extreme things or far more hoops that would have to have been jumped through to make that possible than just what reality may be.
Yeah, it's kind of me jumping on this one, out in front, because again, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist in this area, but these things, again, in that area, like you said, it allows us to feel safe, because if we think we can understand that this wasn't some random nutter, but there's some grander thing going on, it also allows us to feel safe, because that kind of thing wouldn't be targeted at me. It's only targeted at notorious people or people with a big reputation. So again, that's part of that. And also, it allows us to feel part of a group and a collective of special people. Again, this I want to really zero in on this feeling of needing to feel special, because a lot of us want to feel special. We want to feel like our place in this planet at this particular time and universe is going to make a difference. But as one of the great books I've read also said, is the courage to be disliked, and part of the courage to be disliked is the courage to be average. We are all pretty damn average. I mean, just look at the lifespan of humanity and just us individually. We're pretty average, and we try to make a mark. We were painting our own little mosaic in the world around us to make our mark there, and what a legacy we leave with the children and everything behind. But if we're believing in these unusual conspiracies, and we're in a small group that believes a particular conspiracy, think about it. If all of a sudden one day that conspiracy was proven true, I was part of that. Look at me. I'm special. I was one of the few people that was an advocate for that crazy theory or that right theory, whatever it is. Because it feeds our need to be the center of the universe.
Well, it gives you a moment of being in the spotlight when you feel helpless and you feel like a victim, that you can suddenly put yourself cast in the spotlight. And like you said, you might have this grand idea that sounds absurd, but what if it happens to be true? Then all of a sudden you're no longer this nobody that was never noticed by anybody, and now you're somebody. And I think we are living in a world where people are just dying to be seen. We've got influencers. We've got people who are constantly living in this reality show that is America. I don't know if it's going on so heavily in other countries, but I think people are just, I've got a podcast. I've got a podcast. Everybody's got something. We want to be seen and heard.
And part of that also is, adding to that, is that need to be special and smarter. Because if I'm smarter than you all, and look, I came up with this amazing theory of what had happened, it doesn't require a lot of heavy lifting. Because if you're just making some hand-picked confirmation biased observations because you came up with a conclusion that this was a conspiracy, it didn't happen the way everyone else is saying it happened, it must be a conspiracy. Now we're going to handpick and have our confirmation bias, and we're going to only see the data that supports the conclusion that we're looking for. That's called really, really bad science. And you can convince yourself because you can then articulate those 5 points out of these 1,000 that confirm that conspiracy you had. What it should do, though, is spark some curiosity. It's like, I'm seeing a pattern of 5 things. Let me dive deeper, because maybe it's true, maybe it's not. What other areas can I look in to try to validate or invalidate these observations? Because every time I see or hear something, the first thing I do is I get damn curious. You know, Tony, when you forwarded me that we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories and Charlie Kirk, what did I do? I do deep dives in all these different areas. And then I did research in the history of man. Because you know me, I'm always looking to history for patterns. Yeah. How often are conspiracy theories, and we also got to differentiate between, because I did this, because I got curious. There's a difference between a pure conspiracy theory and a cover-up. Mm-hmm. And in case of Charlie Kirk, we're dealing in the area of a potential cover-up as well, because they're covering up true information and trying to mislead. So there's conspiracy theories, cover-ups. But basically in the history of an assassination attempt and it being a true cover-up conspiracy theory, there are examples. Like I said, assassinations are zero proof of those being effective for social justice warriors. But in this case, you get about 20%. So there's a maybe of 20% that says, yeah, there's a possibility here that is above zero that, yeah, there's a cover-up. But that's why we look at data. That's why we get curious.
And I think when anything big happens, when any influential member of society is taken out before their time, we want to look at it and go, well, there must be a greater reason for this, because I mean, especially if you believed in their way of thinking, you want to think, well, they didn't die just for nothing. They didn't die because some idiot 20-year-old had access to a high power rifle and learned how to shoot at a young age and has zero self-control. That can't be just the simple reason why he's gone. Right. He did all this work. He did all these things. If you like him, he's a good person. I mean, I'm just saying, from what people will say, depending on what your opinion is of Charlie Kirk, and no one should be killed for their opinion. The fact that it could have ended just so simply. And that goes for any assassination. It goes for Martin Luther King, whatever, whoever, anybody. That it could just be something so simple and so stupid that simplicity can take out something so big. And that's I think our brains aren't equipped to, I think, equate that equation there.
It doesn't. We want it to be bigger than it actually is, because that makes us feel that we're part of something bigger than that. I mean, and then to keep adding to that too, it's the confirmation bias, because Charlie Kirk meant a lot of things to a lot of different people, negative and positive. And so to say that, so if you're Christian, then you want to have this as a sign that both positive and negative, this is anti-Christianity. So I'm going to only see data and take in data says this was a conspiracy to take out Christian values. On the other side, he's a martyr to Christianity. So I'm going to see it on the opposite side, that the anti-Christians are taking him out. Then you can look at the political side, both positive and negative, same thing. And so if you're trying to prove your own point on your own self-opinion and how you see the universe through your own context, you're going to use moments like this to try to do those things. And so it's easy for us to identify patterns, which as a species, we're very, very good to identifying patterns that we want to create, because sometimes they're just not there. The universe is pretty random. And to your point, most of the time, and we've covered so many cases, 99% of the time, it is just a stupid person doing a stupid, horrendous thing to another human being. They're not smart. They're not intelligent. This is just another example of someone at 20 years old, before the prefrontal lobe's fully formed, self-radicalizing, doing something really stupid. Maybe with others. See, I'm throwing that maybe in there. Yeah. But this is what typically happens. It is not bigger than someone just doing something horrendously stupid.
Well, and isn't it? Oh, Tony, go ahead.
Like I said, we're in a place where it's so easy to essentially self-radicalize, and that's a term that sounds big and spooky, because I think we think of, like, if you've been around on the planet for a little bit and you've been around through 9/11 and such, you hear the term, you're like, oh, it's self-radicalization. It's that, and people think, oh, they were radicalized by this big group over here, and they're going to camps and training and doing that. Like, no, I mean, self-radicalization can just be somebody sitting there on their computer, by themselves, and reaffirming their own whatever direction of belief that they're going in. And then a lot of people doing that at the same time. I feel like we're in a place where our society confuses large numbers of people for legitimate opinions. Just because there's a large number of people behind something doesn't mean those people are operating in reality on reality's terms in any way, shape, or form.
The greatest example. So one of my favorite authors, Noah Harari, that wrote the book *Sapiens*, and then he wrote the book *Nexus*. He wrote the book *Homo Deus* after the *Nexus*. And *Nexus* is talking about the evolution of information in our species. And to your point, just because a large amount of people believe it does not make it true. And that's his point in this book. The first greatest example of this was the printing press and witch hunts in Europe.
What about Sasquatch?
Yeah, well, they think, if you're looking at information. Yeah. Tony's got another series on that coming up.
Without question, it's real. Damn it.
But I think the numbers I saw was roughly 50 to 60,000 people in Europe became, burned at the stake because they were accused of being witches, because they started being able to mass produce information and distribute it, saying what a witch was, and they were using it for political assassination, like your neighbors. And it was literally the first example in our species of mass scale information, just because a large people believed in witches because it was put out in all these pamphlets. They believed it to be true. And now they're killing 50 to 60,000 people because of garbage that everyone thought was true. So yes, we as a species are horrendous. Just because a large number of people say it's true does not make it true whatsoever. Good, but doesn't.
Yeah, social media is kind of like the printing press on steroids.
Yeah. So everything we experience today, we've experienced for hundreds of thousands of years. The technology behind it is what changes. But our cravings and needs as an organism here on this planet, they're exactly the same they've ever been. It's just how we propagate them is what's changed. My wife, so as much as I read, my wife reads even more now. And she generally, she's out with her friends now. She generally is sitting over on the couch, and she is her head buried in a book like all day long. And I told her, and I was laughing at her the other day, I said, people used to say, get your nose out of the book, you're going to ruin your eyes. Engage with the world, go out and get some grass, get some fresh air. When the book was invented, right? Now we're doing it with phones, we're doing everything else, but it's exactly the same thing. So she's got her face buried in a book, but since books are actually more historic and nostalgic for us, printing press, people are criticizing that. At the same time, when we started having, especially with Benjamin Franklin, invented the world's first libraries, free libraries in the United States, and they got the printing press going and all that in the United States. That was the technology at the time that believe it or not, generations were railing against because it was keeping people buried like this. So it's Robin's way of saying, hey, everyone take a deep breath. It's just technology moving through, satisfying the same urges we have as a species that we've always had.
Well, I think we like to have knowledge. We like, we like to know why. A big question of why. My mom said that as soon as I could talk, like my first word was why. Why? I want to know why. I think there's a human curiosity. People need to know the reasons things are happening. And books, research, that all gives us that insight. But now we've got these little computers we can hold in our hands. The sources aren't always reliable. So the curiosity is there, but maybe the sources are questionable.
And that's what we need to really start doing more of, is interrogating the sources of our information. As soon as you hear something new, challenge yourselves with asking, so first saying maybe, and then doing a deeper dive. What else can I find new? And, Stacey, to your beautiful point on that, Dr. Diane Hamilton, she wrote a great book called Cracking the Curiosity Code. And it talks about us as a species and our curiosity. Every other organism on this planet is born with a lot of innate traits and skills and things they're going to do to survive at a young age. And humans are the worst. But the skill set that we have to make us learn faster than any other animal on this planet is the fact that we're born with this insatiable curiosity, because we start being able to speak because we're relating things because of our curiosity. This is what this is. This is what word it represents. And now we're going to put that in our memory, and we're going to start remembering our curiosity. And you're always asking why. What's been happening generationally right now, which is, I think, a large reason why the supposed Charlie Kirk assassin, his curiosity died. Because what happens is around the ages of 5 or 6, when our curiosity is really spiking, are asking why. Why is the sky blue? Why do we have stars? Why is the sun coming up at the day and goes down at night? Why does the moon glow one time and not another? What happens is parents that are and guardians that don't have patience and are bored will hand over an iPad rather than sit there, engage, and encourage that curiosity.
Yep.
And if you start snuffing curiosity out at a young age, you're going to suppress it. When you start suppressing curiosity, then people are going to start just taking in what's presented without interrogating it. And interrogation, not like tell me to, making someone confess. I mean, interrogating mean deep dive to understand what made that what it is. What made you think why you are? And you can reinvigorate and respark curiosity at any point in your life. Mine's been resparked more in the last 5 years, I think, than it was in 20 years with the FBI, believe it or not. But yeah, this is what we have to do.
It's an interesting observation of what you just said there, especially when you talk about kids. And if you just look generationally at the world that was handed iPads at a certain age, or iPhones, or whatever it may be, their devices at 5 or 6, they're young adults now. And not all of them by any means. There's some very intuitive, wonderful ones who use that iPad and to further their curiosity quest and to get information. The other 90-some% now stare at you going,
Huh? What?
Right.
They speak in grunts. And that's because mom put an iPad in their hand and probably stopped encouraging them to ask why, and they just got to sit there and go, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I think that's probably the answer to that. I know it's not exactly the topic we're talking about, but it is. It's an interesting thing to see, and it may tie into this to a certain extent too. The simplicity of it, of just, I saw an opportunity, so I thought I would take it.
Yeah, I had someone reach out to me after one of my appearances on Fox talking about the Charlie Kirk case, and this is someone from my past, and they said, well, are you sure? Because, I heard it's conspiracy for X, Y, and Z. And I said, maybe. And they said, well, I heard that from a very reputable friend of mine.
And?
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. And here's what curiosity does. And so instead of allowing your phone and your iPad to be your teacher, we can teach it to be our tool. Because then I pick up my phone and I pick up my iPad, and every statement that someone says, I call it leakage, all the leakage of the data points someone's providing, I interrogate it. It's like, all right, you said this, let me explore this. You said this, let me explore this. What's this actually mean? Every time. I mean, just ask yourself, if I was going on a podcast to talk to Tony about true crime and you were talking about this topic, what would you do to explore every single nook and cranny so you can actually be educated on all that content? I mean, that's exactly what I do for this, exactly what we do and should be doing with everything we say in life, especially today. There is such a treasure trove of garbage that is circulating around the world. And I'll tell you what it is, it's entertaining. Because 99% of everything that you're consuming is meant to be entertainment. Because what's entertainment do? Sells ad space. Because remember, we're all just doing things for profit, most people. So interrogate everything.
See, it's a reality show. Life is a reality show right now.
Absolutely. And that's why I call it, this is a great show. This is a great show. But remember, sometimes it's important to realize you're watching a variety show of the life around you. And sometimes you just need a down-to-earth, nonfiction, true show about what actually is, so we can actually make good cognitive choices, of healthy choices for us and those we care about.
Well, and that people need to also understand they have agency to look, to dig, to ask the questions.
I like that.
It's not just because I say this, you say this. Okay, if you don't like it, then dig, then find why are you not agreeing? Why are you agreeing? Whatever it is. Question things. It's good to question things. When we're told not to question things, that's where it gets really dangerous.
That's
another place that we're in right now. It's interesting what you said there about your friend, where he was like, well, I got this on, somebody really I trust, some of this. He's trying to recruit you to their team. This is a team sport now.
Yes.
conspiracy theories are a team sport. They wanted you on your team, on their team. And you're a great player to have on someone's team. So I get what they're doing. You're on our team, and I love that.
Isn't that great?
But that's the thing with conspiracy theories. You don't have to think just like somebody else or have their exact same opinion to be on the same team. Team, let's question, let's ask. That's a better team than let's all be right. Because if you're not open to being wrong, how are you ever going to evolve?
100%. And when we discover new things, that's so much fun. I mean, one of the greatest things I love doing with you all is when we're exploring these cases and exploring these things, it's literally that. It's an exploration. Every single case that we cover, it's an exploration. We always start out with maybe. And as we keep taking in more data on everything we're saying, I have switched my own personal opinions on what I thought is so many times on so many cases by every time I get new data coming in, because I don't, at least I do to the best of my ability, have that confirmation bias that it is definitely one thing. Although I will tell, as everyone knows, Richard Allen, I still think he's innocent. But other than that, But and why? Because of the data of him, of what comes in. If I see different data, it'll switch it again. Not being tied to the outcome that you're seeking really keeps you flexible and open to the life you're experiencing around you, and you will see so much more. I think I get asked, the most common question I get asked is, Robin, how do I profile the world around us? How do we become a great observer? How do I baseline everything? I said that it's actually the easiest thing in the world to say, the hardest thing to do. I don't try to see anything. Mm-hmm. When you don't try to see something, you see so much more. Because as soon as you're trying to see someone do something, in other words, people always say, the common thing that you hear from law enforcement is after a crime has happened and the convict or the bad guy is still on the loose, police will say, be vigilant. And what if you don't give instruction on what that means is, what do people try to do? They're going to try to see something wrong. Yes. They're going to try to see a bad guy. So now they're placing an imprint on their mind of what a bad guy looks like from what they've seen before on videos and pictures and everything. And they're going to try to find that person. They're going to miss everything else because you're trying to find that. And so instead, when someone says be vigilant, here's what you could be doing. Don't try to find anything. Take in everything, baseline what everything around you typically looks like on a normal day, which we already know. We already get a vibe of the tempo, the look, the placement of everything in our lives. And we always have that spider sense or that tremor in the force, as I call it, when something's a little off. When you feel something's a little off, that meant something changed. Someone changed. Because if you're not trying to see something, you'll be able to zero in on that a lot easier. And then you say, that's a little different from everything I've seen every day. Yeah. Rather than you'll ignore it, because now here's what will happen. If that doesn't fit what you're trying to see, like you see a box or something left over here, but you're trying to find something that looks like a bomb over here, you're going to totally ignore that box.
That's really profound what you're saying here. So instead of hyper focus on everything to try to find that little nugget, step back to the broader picture and look at the entire picture, or maybe don't even look. Things will pop at you. And so many people are so stressed out because we are hyper-focused. We are absolutely focused on this and that and that and that and so many things, and our brains can't process that. We really need to sit back and kind of do the do a little meditation and just let our minds rest and see what comes.
I feel like we're defining outrage as community. And that's not the same thing. And here's I don't know why this example came to my mind when you were talking about that, but here's kind of a functional example. You ever go to like those festivals where it's like the taste of your city, where it's a bunch of different restaurants, like, a little bit of this from here, and then some places have like huge lines just to get one thing, and some like have nothing. But you're walking around, and you can walk into something like that and go, oh my gosh, this huge line over here, this must be amazing. I don't even know what the hell they're serving, but everybody's in this line. I must go check this out. And you haven't even walked around to see what the hell's going on, what everything else is. It's not just jumping into, well, everybody's over here, this must be the best thing. It's walk around first. Go see what everything is. Go find out what foods are there. You may discover that everybody's lining up for you hate. So go check out what the rest of the atmosphere has before you just jump into the line where everyone else is, where all the scuttlebutt is, because you may discover it may not even be what you want or believe. But once you're in that line after the last hour waiting for your cream puff, you don't even like, and you can't even have dairy.
So I'm getting in the line for the cream puff. But oh my God, that was a great analogy, Tony. That was awesome.
So here's some pragmatic things you can exercise in your own life. Boy, we go on such tangents sometimes. I apologize.
It's beautiful. No, stop apologizing. It's wonderful. I love this part.
So here's something you can use in your own life. Talk about, because Tony, what you're also talking about there too is also social proof. Social proof is an amazing, powerful tool of influence and persuasion over others. Can be used for manipulation also. So these can be the dark arts, right? So this reminds. I'm laughing because this is so funny. My wife just laughs at me hysterically when I do things like this. So I think it was last year. As you know, I go camping a lot. Well, I go glamping in our motorhome. And we were staying down in the Great Smokies in Tennessee about a year or two ago. And they have the big circle that goes through Great Smoky Mountains. And it's through the National Forest there. It's typically... It's like one single lane, and the speed limit's like 20 or 25, but typically you get someone creeping at like 2 miles an hour. They'll just stop, and it's just driving you nuts, right? Especially if you're me. I want to keep a tempo going, right? So we're passing this one meadow, and we're at a pull-off, and no one's pulling off. And there's like 4 cars in front of me, and they're just kind of creeping along, and we had cars behind me. I said to my wife, watch this. And so we stopped the car. I rolled down the window, and I pointed my hand out the window, looking out across the field, and I held it for like this. Every car around me pulled off the side to see what I was pointing at, and we were able to go. Pointing at nothing, man.
I love it. I'm going to use that.
Oh, my God. Oh, that's so devious. I love it.
I just wanted to get these people out of my way. So here's what you do. Ask yourself, what can I do? It's got to be an action of what can I do?
Fuck with other people.
No, to inspire someone to get out of my way.
I like the operative use of inspire.
So what are their priorities on this trip? Their priorities is to see something in nature. So if I point out something that they think might be in nature that is out of the ordinary, they're going to be inspired to move the hell out of my way.
You're an evil genius is what you are. Jennifer in our chat said genius, but I'm going to put evil genius. You just got to
know what people seek and crave.
You're inspired. Look at that dead chipmunk, everybody. Go check that out.
My wife still tells that story. It's just hilarious. I mean, you do that anywhere you go. Anyway.
Does she just roll her eyes at you, or what does she do when you do these things?
There are moments I rate my day. If my wife doesn't roll her eyes, she says, that was really good.
We're talking about the Charlie Kirk conspiracies. We're talking about the atmosphere that we're in, where there's not a lot of trust. There's a lot of people asking questions, and rightfully so. This is not a piece to say don't ask questions, but this is more of an observation of what's going on around us and why are we believing certain things? Why are people believing certain things? When things are factually proving them wrong, why are we putting answers to places where we just don't have the answers yet and calling them fact? What is going on around us? We've been looking at the Charlie Kirk situation and the assassination from a kind of a 20,000-foot overview. Now I want to take it a little bit to a more of a micro level where you're right there, you're on the ground. I want to talk about that day and some of the conspiracy theories that are floating on or floating out around there. Maybe not super specifically, but just the logistics of this from what we supposedly know is fact, and then how anything else can really intersect with that and gain ground. Robin Dreeke, retired FBI special agent, former chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, is with us to discuss all of this. I just want to start with just the basics on this here. There was a shooter on the roof. We have footage. We have security camera footage showing him climbing in. There's I don't know. I mean, it looks pretty clear cut to me. The family turned him in, so you have all these other people involved in this. It's not just this person who has no one around them. There's family. There's we got all the way down to like the chaplain friend or whatever that helped turn him in. There's multiple people. So to me, when you have so many people involved, that makes it really difficult to sell a conspiracy theory, especially one that says this wasn't even the right person. When everybody's like, yeah, it was. It's our family gun. It's his
right.
DNA's on it. He's on camera. There's this note. There's a lot of weird things about the notes and things like that, sure, but there's a lot of things here that are like, you can't discount the human element, and there's a lot of human element to this around this guy.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. And that's why when some of these conspiracy theories started coming about, it was, I wouldn't say shocking. I was surprised. It's a good word. Surprised because of all these other elements that weren't present for all the other cases in history that there were conspiracy theories around, some proven, some unproven. But when you have a lot of data, like you said, other individuals involved, for me, it was definitely the family being involved in this. His compliance as a 20-year-old to go along with being turned in, that was major for me because that's unusual. And also compared to other things too, everyone, 3,000 people heard one shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so that's another data point as well. So what happens is it makes it harder to go down that road of maybe with other options. And so every time you have hard evidence, and DNA is good, very good on this, but there could be other DNA. So again, there's a maybe there if you want a conspiracy theory about someone else being involved. But I have been involved in so many big things in the FBI, and every time you have more than one person involved, 2 people, 3 people, it starts the ability to maintain a conspiracy in private, to keep it secret. It just diminishes. I mean, just look at the Adelsons.
Right.
Yeah. You know, anytime you have a couple morons. So first of all, think about this. If you're going to kill someone, you're a moron. You've got a lot of stupid things going on in your life. Mm-hmm. And so morons gravitate towards them other morons, including governments, because governments, if governments are going to conspire together to assassinate someone, that's a government of morons. And morons have leakage. And so that's why it's so hard to pull these things off. Grant, I got the stats. It can happen, but it becomes very, very hard. And so what becomes hard is to negate the conspiracy theory. In other words, if there's actually data that's being leaked out because there's much more plausibility to maybe, those conspiracy theories start gaining some more momentum and some more weight, because every time you explore a new thought and idea and trying to get data to support it, you might not get a lot of data, but you might get like one thing that says, oh, that's a possibility here. So we can explore this. In other words, but we're not getting that kind of leakage here, at least not that I'm seeing.
I feel like sometimes the society that we live in mistakes opportunity for conspiracy, especially in a case like this, where in order to seize the opportunity to get behind something like this and then essentially hijack it for your own beliefs, whatever it may be, even if they're not even that of Charlie Kirk, right, but you're going to go and pretend they were somehow. That feeds the conspiracy. Well, if they're getting behind this, they must have had something to do with his death. No, they've just been waiting for an opportunity, and the door opened, and this moron opened it. Yeah, and it's like hyenas just waiting. You know, they're waiting for it to happen. When something happens, okay, whatever that's going to be, we don't have the exact, complete game plan here or blueprint to what we're going to do. But when something of this nature happens, we're going to swoop in and we're going to be the group behind it. And we're going to use this horrible tragedy to further our agenda that, again, may have nothing to do with what Charlie Kirk was believing or speaking of. But if we can get enough people behind it and think that, oh my gosh, this is, you got to be in, you're either here, you're with us, or you're against us. Right. That's what it goes into. And if everybody feels special and you put enough fireworks on the stage, you got a lot of people. They're going to be like, all right. And it looks weird as shit. Because it is weird as shit. Because you have a mix of people who are genuinely grieving, who are genuinely trying to figure out what the hell just happened to someone they genuinely care about, mixed with nefarious individuals who come in and go, well, this is the best fucking thing that could have happened to us. This is going to totally help our numbers. And they're not looking at it from a humanistic standpoint. They're looking at it from an opportunist standpoint. And when I look at the Charlie Kirk situation, that's what I'm seeing.
There's a lot of that. It's easy to kind of identify when you have big events like this, easy to identify groups, and the group thinks that you might not even been aware of before. And this has definitely created a lot of awareness. I love creating awareness, because as soon as you have awareness and you see where people stand, and you don't see where they stand with the intent of using it in, see that using it in some way against them. No, so I understand how to communicate more effectively with you. So I understand your context. I understand your background. I understand your belief system, your morals, your ethics, everything. Because I need to understand. I've asked this all the time. When someone asks me a question about spirituality, politics, or anything in life, my first question, if I don't know them well, is typically, help me understand yours. Because if I understand yours, I can give you an answer that you're going to be able to hear. Because I want to be able to be a useful individual for you. And in this case, too, we're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing, to your point, Tony, you have some people are like, using this as an example of one side being against us. Then you have this side saying, well, those people are disgusting because they're so into this. And then you have the people that sit back, I'll put myself in this one, is like, this is all very interesting. It's like you're looking at all these groups, all these people kind of losing their minds or doubling down, and you're like seeing all these amazing behaviors, and you're like, this is a very interesting event that people are capitalizing on tragedy to further an agenda that they had that they never thought of before, or it's really interesting, isn't it? It's just nutters.
It is. I mean, it's very bizarre, and especially with this. And I want to get in and like there's obviously a lot of people that have a lot of opinions here. Candace Owen being one of them that has expressed her conspiracy theories, essentially in. Not trying to speak, but basically the whole thing is a lie is what I think you can kind of paraphrase it as for the way that she's been presenting it. But that's where I go back to, okay, if the whole thing is a lie, then how the hell that you're going to have, I don't know any other way of steering around than what? His family's making the whole thing up. They're actors. They're liars. They're paid off by the government. They're not a real family. Like what is the story? I mean, what are these things that would have to be in place to make this work? It's very easy for people to throw out terms like crisis actor or this or that, and then to just leave it at that. Like, okay, well then why don't we have this? There's not tons of people going, I was hired as a crisis actor, and this is what I did. In all these horrible things that we see conspiracy theorists jump at. I mean, we saw, with nutcase Alex Jones and the crazy things he's claimed, and it mobilizes people against people that are just trying to get through their lives. The horrible evilness of Alex Jones and the Sandy Hook shit. I mean, that sort of thing is sickening. And I'm not saying it's exactly what's going on here, but it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make it's physically, it's mentally impossibility in many conspiracy theories for it to play out because of the human aspect that you would need to have in place for it to work out. Again, we're very still early into this thing, so I'm not saying that is all of the case here. But that alone, the human element, is what I'm really stuck on in this case is, okay, if it's all fake, explain all these other human beings then. And then what happens to them when this is done? Do they go find a job over at the Dairy Queen? And I was a crisis actor previously. I had a fake son that did a fake shooting. Now I make blizzards. I mean, what? So
here's what you do. Well, here's what I do, and I hate making it about me on that one. So when someone says something that seems a little off or interesting, like you have that response, well, maybe, and you do you try to go one layer deeper and you ask, and I always say, don't ask why questions, like, why do you think that? Because then you'll get in the world of subjectiveness, which is, you can't go anywhere on that. People are too subjective and it's their own belief system and more, and it doesn't help with relevance. I ask what? So what would make you, so I would respond to that. What would make you say that? What do you have to support that? See that what question. And then when they start trying to say something or befuddles them and they kind of come to a roadblock of thoughts, well, then I don't give it any more thought. I don't have the bandwidth to entertain your nutterness in my head. Yeah. And again, I don't dismiss I don't resent anyone, or I don't think less of anyone. I just know where to categorize you in my bandwidth of assessing what direction to move in. And if you're coming to your own roadblock on why you think it is what you think, then why do you want me to join it? You're now granted, I will say, when you have more information that you think could support some of these ideas you have, I would love to hear them, because I would love to hear them. Because one thing I think we should all strive to do is really be able to think and speak intelligently about the things that matter to you. So let's move Charlie Kirk's belief system aside, for whether you believed what he stood for or didn't. His ability to understand very clearly and articulate exactly what his belief system was beyond anyone he engaged. Mm-hmm. With exception of few. I thought a few.
Well, at least the ones that he put on the webs on his social media.
But
it was a very selective. It was glorified jaywalking.
I keep going back to him and Bill Maher. I thought that was one of the best conversations. Like when he was actually on a legitimate show and not on a college campus. Granted, those college campus, some of those were very good, thoughtful engagements. But this challenged both sides, and you could hear both sides clearly articulate their belief system and what they stood for. And here's what you can get out of this. If you love humanity and you love experiencing the greatness of our minds, I can stand here and say I enjoyed listening to Charlie Kirk state what he believed in, because he was very articulate about what he believed in. He's nowhere in here do I say I believe it.
Right.
Sure. I enjoyed listening. And then same with Bill Maher. He really understands what he believes in. What great conversation to hear people think through and be able to articulate what their belief system is, what they believe the world is about. That helps me then think, how can I think more like that? Not be like them, but how can I keep that Socratic thinking method? So people are trying to capitalize in their different ways of Charlie Kirk's tragic death in all the politically or religiously or all this thing. Mine was, can we use this opportunity to become more curious? To Stacey's point earlier. You know what? No one is. What the hell? Because that actually would solve problems. If we just got more curious, think about the problems we would actually be able to solve. Nah, no one cares.
Why would we want to solve problems? Why would we want to solve problems when we're addicted to outrage?
That's my point exactly. It's because this is a great show. This world is a great show.
But our nervous systems can't continue on this path. And
you're right.
Oh my God. I've had a really stressful year, and Tony, you saw my meltdown a couple months ago. It was legit. And now I've come back around, and I've stopped watching a lot of news. Like I get weather alerts, so if there's a tornado, I'm going to know about it.
It's a bad day if there's weather for Stacey.
Exactly. So, but honestly, I'm watching cats hitting printers. If you've not seen that, you need to go see that.
It's not even a video. It's in her house. It's happening.
Yeah. I just went blurry again. But the printer is off to my left, and when I print something, the cat comes over and goes whap. Well, that's all I need in my life.
That's a good
and
show.
Some good friends. And I feel like when I wake up in the morning, my heart's not racing anymore. It legit was racing. I had to wear a Holter monitor where they're checking to make sure my heart's not about ready to blow up. Well, it was all the consumption of the news and the negativity and the outrage. We become addicted to it. And I think our cortisol levels just go off the chart, and we can't sustain that. We are not made for that.
Stacey, I could do so much deep conversation with you about all this stuff, because one of the ways in which we can baseline and see the world around us for what it is living in the Eastern philosophies. I mean, that's why I read the Tao Te Ching every day. It's why I do all these different things to baseline healthy normal. Yeah, and I know Tony got me reading this. My wife is reading it too. Is the Let Them by Mel Robbins.
Yes.
And I was laughing with my wife yesterday. It's like, talk about a nutty world. She's had a crazy world, but then again, it really helps you emphasize a lot of people have. But if you just take a deep breath and realize the universe is just being what it is, it's not out to get you. And that word, and think about, and here's another word I was thinking of too the other day because of rereading that, is fair. Fair is a fascinating word to think about, because it's not fair that this is happening, fair that this is happening. The universe doesn't have fair or unfair. It just is. And so if you can understand that the world just is what it is, and that you're just this microspeck on it, and there's no fair or unfair, because what's fair and unfair? It's context.
Yeah.
Fair and unfair is our own confirmation biases, and and what? It's comparison. Comparison just destroys so many things, because when we're comparing ourselves to someone else, that's the only time we can come up with that word. It's unfair. Mm-hmm. Stop comparing, and you'll live a lot more in peace.
The only thing you should be comparing yourself to is what you were a few months ago, a few weeks ago, a week ago, yesterday. Yeah. Are you doing better than you did yesterday? Don't compare yourself to anybody else. What did you do yesterday? Are you better today? It sounds
self-reflection. Why would anyone want to do that? That's icky.
I have to be honest. I actually lit some incense listening to Robin today, and I'm sitting here just breathing it in deeply.
Oh my God, we should have like a gift shop that people can go into and buy like the Robin Dreeke incense.
Oh God,
I'm telling you, I keep it here all the time. There's my Tao Te Ching. And also, I got my, Who Will Cry When You Die by Robin Sharma.
Oh, God, that one makes me nervous. I'm wondering who would cry if I died.
Well,
good question, isn't it? That's a good question for you.
Oh, my God, yes.
Who's coming to your funeral?
So I love
me and Jamie Rake.
Way off topic again. So I had, because one of the questions he poses in the book, which I absolutely love, I've said it numerous times, is, so if you had 3 hours left on this planet, what would you spend it doing?
Oh.
Because this is what you should do every day of your life, and remind yourself, at least do this once a day. Because if you're not doing this, if this was your last few minutes on this planet, how would you spend it?
Wow.
And I've had these moments multiple times, and I had another one this past Sunday. And I loved every minute of it. And I told my wife when we got off this call, I said, if it ended now, I am completely good. And this is it. So 3 hours. You don't have time for a bucket list. There's no things you can do. There's nothing you can accumulate because you're not bringing anything with you. So what matters the most to you that you would spend the last couple hours of your existence on this planet, because I say planet because whatever your belief system is, to do? Every Sunday, my family and I, was my wife and my 2 kids, my 2 adult kids, my jet pilot, my labor and delivery nurse, we have a FaceTime call every Sunday night, and we catch up on each other's lives. And every now and then, you hit everyone's energy at just the right time, and both my son and my daughter can be the most hilarious people I've ever experienced in my life. They had me, so my son's telling me these amazingly horrible, crass jokes, because as jet pilots, one of the things they do is before they do every briefing, before they go do these missions, there's the joke of the day. And I got to tell you, jet pilots are not telling politically correct, nice, socially acceptable jokes. And so my son tells the joke of the day. My daughter is the one-line snarky one that is hilarious as hell. And her fiance is in the background, playing a video game. My wife's on this call. I was rolling on the floor, laughing my ass off. And those are moments I absolutely love. I mean, that's when our dopamine's going, our serotonin, our oxytocin, our endorphins, everything is firing because we're being loved, we're being accepted for who we are, and we're in immense moments of joy. That is also the only moments we remember. We don't remember average days. We only remember really hilarious, great days or really challenging days. So I always say, go forward and make a day you're going to remember. So that is how. And so that's what we should focus on every day. How do we have a great, healthy relationship with the people in our lives, and so that we will be able to say, this was a fantastic day. And it's not by following nutters.
No, and it's not by sitting here. I'd spend my last time scrolling on TikTok. Nobody's going to answer it that way.
That's a good show.
Then why are we spending the time that we have acting like it's not counting down? It is. Why are we doing it?
It is for everybody.
Yeah. It's a very good way to think of it, and I think a good way to wrap up this episode. Robin, thank you as always. Robin Dreeke, retired FBI special agent, former chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program. I got a stack of books over here: Sizing People Up, The Code of Trust, Unbreakable Alliances. I'm going to juggle them now. Are we ready?
I want to see this. Can we see this?
No, because I don't want to it would crash the set, and there's computers here, and there's boards.
All right, fine.
It wouldn't work out well, but available wherever books are sold. Great stuff. And the audiobooks are great as well, so do check them out. Okay, well, that's going to wrap up this week of true crime programming on the podcast. For Stacy, for Todd, for Robin, I'm Tony Brueski. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.